Well, thank you so much, Yeva. A few technical checks in the beginning. Can you hear me? And can you see me? And if yes, just nod or say yes. And of course, sveiki to all of the participants. I would also like to share my screen to make sure that we go with the presentation in the most expedient manner. And me having done so, I promise that I will speak for about 10 minutes while sharing what I hope will be a cautionary tale of the law that we have now on our hands. Also, telling you about major strides that we've made in transparency in politics over the past couple of years, and then presenting you the new normal that will take effect as of January 2021. So without further ado, let me start with my speech. Now, as you know, we've had the law for about 2 decades now. We started having the conversations about the need to regulate lobbying in 2000. In 2001, we got the law coming into the effect. It really was a part of our accession requirements to the European Union, and with several amendments, this is the law that was still on our hands. And this law, by and large, does not really manage to grasp the entire extent of what is going on in our country when it comes to lobbying activities. As you can see from this particular slide, it's clear that we have defined lobbying in a very narrow manner. It really is a person who registers with the COEC or the Chief Official Ethics Commission, an institution responsible for the oversight of lobbying activities in Lithuania. And over the span of 20 years, we've managed to have only 118 lobbyists registered. There are a number of requirements put in place. For instance, a lobbyist needs to report electronically for every draft, legal act, or administrative decision that he or she has sought to influence in the span of 7 days. And it has to provide a number of valuable pieces of information, such as the name of the lobbyist itself, clearly, also the client that they represent, the title of the legal act, the brief description of the subject matter, and the name and duties of the lobbied person and institution. And perhaps you wouldn't be surprised that while we do have a very nice looking website called lobbyisti.lt, the law in itself does not really work. And the reason for that is quite simple. It is poorly enforced. It does not go to the core of what lobbying really is all about. And it does not provide, I think, clear incentives for any parties involved to actually report the acts of lobbying. Hence, there should be no surprise in the new piece of data that I'm presenting to you, which is that 1 in 10 business people and 1 in 5 public servants actually think that decision-making in Lithuania is not open. This is the data from the Lithuanian map of corruption. This is a representative piece of information that you can freely use in your work. And this is something which has been resonating throughout other pieces of research that we have on our hands. And that is, if you'd ask the business representatives, they would actually tell you that, well, indeed, registered lobbyists are quite influential. However, at the end of the day, businesses and business associations, especially those business associations and businesses coming from pharma, construction, energy sector, healthcare, and alcoholic beverages marketplaces, are the ones who play a key role in influencing decision makers in Lithuania. Just as importantly, when it comes to decision making, it's not through official committee meetings and official meetings that those decisions would be influenced, but it's through acquaintances and official meetings and financial return, which is very unpleasant and very worrisome, that decisions can be influenced by various interest groups at play. Now, with this status quo at hand, of course, you could ask, well, where do you go from here? And why would you be telling us this story if it's clear that the law on lobbying hasn't really brought any significant change? Well, I suppose you would agree that transparency, in essence, is a habit. And this is precisely the way we have gone about this matter in the past couple of years. What we essentially try to persuade to our decision makers is that a good politician or a good decision maker for that matter, is an active and an accountable one. meaning that it's not just important for you to do a lot of things, it's also essential that you report on your activities. And what we started to do in Lithuania about 4 years ago is we started monitoring what our parliamentarians declare. The reason for that being that we needed to start somewhere, and we realized that probably the parliament, which is not really trusted upon and is perceived very critically by the public, is a good place to start. Because of course we want our parliament to be trusted, we want our parliament to be the standard for transparency. So what we started to do is to look at how our parliamentarians declare meetings. And what we're happy to tell you is that actually over the span of 4 years, 2/3 of our parliamentarians, so 100 MPs in total, declared almost 4,000 meetings with different interest groups and registered lobbyists. To us, this was groundbreaking, simply because we managed to completely destroy the myth that our politicians do not meet with interest groups and actually have few meetings to report. And just as importantly, we saw an incremental increase in the number of meetings declared and the number of politicians doing so over the span of 4 years. Perhaps the fact that we were reporting on those meetings and publicly discussing the data at hand has contributed to that. Perhaps the Speaker of the Parliament being very vocal and supportive of this matter also helped. However, ladies and gentlemen, what we have now at our disposal is a much more detailed set of data that allows us to understand such things as to whom our politicians meet and which parties are more active, which parties are less active in terms of meeting with interest groups, and how that all breaks down in terms of numbers. So now we have at our disposal such data as, well, we know that business associations and businesses are the most active ones when it comes to meetings. NGOs, public advocacy organizations, follow suit with a very similar number of meetings reported. There are plenty of other meetings at hand. And just as importantly, now on our website, mannaseimas.lt, you can see a lot of data which would allow you to be confident about the fact that those parties that are in the majority are more likely to meet with the representatives of business. Those that are in the opposition are more likely to meet with the representatives of NGOs. There are really no differences when it comes to females and males reporting meetings, yet there's an essential difference when it comes to whether you are a new member of the parliament or not. Our newcomers were much more likely to report meetings with interest groups as opposed to old timers. Now, all of this has provided for a much more nuanced debate as to transparency in politics in Lithuania and has managed to change, I think, the perception that, for instance, the journalistic community has towards politicians. For instance, if just recently a politician that would be declaring meetings would be the one who would be receiving most questions, now it's the politicians that don't declare any meetings that would actually need to take heed from the journalistic community or monitoring institutions. And what we have in store now is not only, so what we have in store now is not only the MPs meetings with interest groups being reported on, but also committee meetings in the parliament to be presented and access logs in the parliament to be disclosed. We have the data on our hands. It comes from our close cooperation with the Chancellery of the Parliament, and I know that the representatives of the Chancellery are also very interested to understand what is it that they have on their hands, because throughout the process we realized that actually there's a very big likelihood that our parliamentarians don't have their hands on this data themselves, and they don't really know, for instance, who are the most active participant in committee meetings, which laws discussed in the most active manner, which institution provides the biggest number of various proposals or amendments to be considered. And that, of course, is key if you are serious about proper decision-making based on data. And I'm very happy that our parliament throughout the past couple of years not only disclosed this data, but has opened up a lot of data in an open data format. And now we can boast about the fact that it's probably one of the most open parliaments in the world. Having said that, of course, you might be interested, what is it that I was speaking about when I said that there will be a new normal coming of 2021? And the new normal is the amendments to the law that will take place as of the 1st of January 2021. They were passed this summer. And what we will now have, something which I know is unprecedented throughout the world. We will have cross-deprivation of media, meaning that the representatives in the parliament, ministers, heads of municipalities will need to also declare meetings with the representatives of interest groups, just as those representatives would have when the meeting is a meeting in which lobbying activity took place. There's a broader definition of lobbyist. It will not be just a registered. Actually, it will now include any business association representative or business representative. Also, on the other hand, there will be greater leniency for mistakes or not reporting certain meetings in place. That is key. And I'm very happy that our Chief of Ethics Commission now understands that it's not about fines and it's not about punishment. The law on lobbying is the penultimate transparency law. And what we're really looking at is to make sure that there's as much sunshine in our politics as possible, because sunshine, at the end of the day, as Supreme Justice Louis Brandeis once said, the best disinfectant there is. The politicians will also need to make their work agendas public, which we will have to make it for even greater transparency. And while NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are not included in this particular law at the moment, there will be the transparency list for them and other persons aiming to influence legislation, and will be again incentivized to those persons registering at the transparency list being able to get access to amendments and legislative flow in a much more expedient manner. This is what we will have at the beginning of January. I'm really looking forward to it. And what I'm also very happy about is that we're not just passively waiting for it. Next week, together with our colleagues from the Chief Officials Ethics Commission, the Special Investigation Service, we're holding a very broad public consultation with the members of parliament, municipalities, ministries, to make sure that they are well acquainted with the new provisions that will take place as of January, and will start declaring more meetings as of next year. So my outlook is actually quite optimistic. I'm sure there will be a lot of issues we'll need to deal with, but perhaps this could also serve as an inspiration for you, my dear colleagues in Latvia, to have a good law in place and see greater transparency in politics. This is it from me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and of course, don't hesitate to get in touch with me at sergejus@transparency.org at any given moment. Thank you so much.